It's the first hat over a heart, the first sweep of home plate. It's the first windup, the first pitch, and the first swing and a miss. It's zeros across the board, the first shot across the sky. It's hope restored. It's a chase renewed. Opening day is nothing to lose and nowhere to go but up. It's the dream of repeating or completing the job nearly done. It's looking down the bench, seeing a new direction, and praying it's the right one. It's making a move that you're certain will make all the difference. And that's opening day. It's stars and it's stripes. It's the first blessed day of the rest of your life. Opening day is here.
Opening day baseball, built by the Home Depot. And as you can see, we've got a gorgeous afternoon here at the Great American Ballpark, one of the traditional spots for opening day baseball, Cincinnati, where the Reds will host the Chicago Cubs. Hi, everybody. Dan Shulman and Steve Phillips. Very glad you're along with us for what figures to be the beginning of another exciting baseball season. Opening day is such a special day.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, you got a lot of players changing teams, but also a lot of hope. And both these teams here, the Chicago Cubs and Cincinnati Reds, have a lot of hope because this is a division that 83 games won it last year with the Cardinals. They both think they have a chance.
And who knows what the 2007 season will bring for the Chicago Cubs, but we can tell you this, no team made more headlines in the offseason than the Cubs did. Lou Piniella's back in the Major League dugout as he signs on as the manager of the Cubs. They spent an absolute fortune in the offseason, the biggest contract going to Alfonso Soriano, who's going to be their center fielder. And neither Kerry Wood nor Mark Pryor on the opening day roster, but maybe this year the Cubs are in a little better shape to handle the fact that they are not healthy and active right now. How important, though, is Soriano to the success of the Cubs this year?
Absolutely critical. They were 15th in runs scored last year. He is the most unique combination of power and speed of any offensive player at the Major League level. They're looking for him to get on base and deliver offensively in a big way. The other guy, the aircraft carrier, he's back and going to make a big difference. Derek Lee. He had an MVP caliber season in 2005, but lost most of 2006 to a wrist injury. He's back, hit .471 in spring training, and led all of baseball with 22 RBIs. The big guy's back.
Had the Cincinnati Reds played just a little bit better last September, maybe the St. Louis Cardinals wouldn't have won the World Series. The Reds hung in as the Cardinals started to fade late in September, and the Reds were a fairly active team in the offseason as well. They signed their two best pitchers to multi-year deals. They tried to improve their defense in a number of ways, one of them bringing in Alex Gonzalez. One of the other ways they're looking at changing things defensively, and this sounds strange, it looks strange, Ken Griffey Jr. is now the Reds' right fielder. Ryan Freel is the starting center fielder. As you can see, Griffey has hardly ever played anywhere but center field, but the Reds feel that they'll be a better ball club with Griffey in right field this year.
There's no question. And the big bat, they're looking for production, but also looking for production from the big guy. His nickname is the Donkey because he can drive it out of the ballpark. 3 consecutive seasons of 40 home runs or more. This big guy is looking for some production and to carry this Reds offense.
So much to talk about here this afternoon as the Reds and Cubs kick off their seasons. We've got a packed house. We've got a beautiful day. We've got maybe the best story of spring training with Josh Hamilton on the Reds opening day roster. And we've got two legitimate aces in Carlos Zambrano and Aaron Harang. The Cubs and Reds opening day next. And back here at the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, opening day for the Reds and the Cubs. Second year in a row these two teams have met on opening day. And second year in a row it is right here in Cincinnati. A packed house, as you might expect, for this game involving a couple of teams who think of themselves as contenders in the National League Central. And look who is in the ballpark for the first time. Pete Rose, who apparently bought a couple of tickets for this game.
baseball's all-time hits leader. He's going to watch a game here at the new ballpark for the first time. Was here once before, but it was rained out. Major League Baseball, Steve, approving a Pete Rose exhibit at the Reds Hall of Fame, which is adjacent to the ballpark, which naturally has stirred up emotions on both sides of the argument, which Pete Rose always seems to do.
Well, Pete Rose is home here. I mean, these fans in Cincinnati adore him for his long achievements and contributions to the Big Red Machine and what he meant here. So it's no surprise that the welcome and really all of the attention being paid to the Pete Rose exhibit.
And you can imagine how much the fans on the north side of Chicago are going to adore Lou Piniella, especially if things go well for the Cubs as Pete Rose takes in the game today. Lou Piniella, maybe he's mellowed a little bit, but he's still pretty feisty, and he said he's got butterflies as he does every single opening day. And after a year in the broadcast booth, he's back in the dugout where it seems Lou Piniella belongs.
Well, he's a guy, he's a fixer. I mean, he's a guy, he's not someone to build with. You know, he tried to go to Tampa Bay, but it wasn't the right fit. He's a guy to come in when you need to turn things around quickly and get a change in philosophy and attitude, and he's tried to instill that right from the start in spring training. The players have responded. He's enthusiastic, and I know they're excited in Chicago with Lou at the helm.
Can they go from 96 losses to a contending team in just 1 year? They've spent a ton of money. Nobody got more of it than Alfonso Soriano. They tried to bolster the rotation with the likes of Ted Lilly and Jason Marquis. Cliff Floyd is now a Cub as he works his way back to health, but is it enough for them to win in a division where, frankly, it doesn't look like anybody's going to run away from anybody else?
The National League Central Division is a bunch of teams all piled together. They're all very similar, all have some strengths, all have some weaknesses. And in the end, they could end up with 85 wins, winning the division, and the last place team having 75 wins. I mean, it really is some very closely balanced teams, and I think the Cubs have a shot. Now, they're going to have to pitch, and they're going to have to score. Last year, 15th in runs scored, 14th in ERA. They had some real issues, but they went out and addressed them this offseason.
For many, many years, the first game of the baseball season was always played right here in Cincinnati. The Reds still always open at home. It's still one of the special places and one of the special players the Reds have had in the last couple of generations. Eric Davis is about to receive the ceremonial opening pitch from the mayor of Cincinnati, Mark Mallory. For folks who are watching, for kids who are watching who are not young enough to remember, that's it for the mayor, who are not young enough to remember Eric Davis. If you wanted to talk about someone who had some physical gifts and played the game in an exciting manner, I mean, Eric Davis had all the tools.
Well, you talk about five-tool players. He was that guy. Power and speed. You saw it in the outfield. You saw it at the plate, running the bases. Played with reckless abandon, and a big part of the history here in this organization.
Ken Griffey Jr., also a guy blessed with all of those tools that Eric Davis had, and like both of them having trouble staying healthy at various points of their careers. Jerry Naron, his third season as the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds finished 80-82 a year ago, just about three and a half games behind St. Louis, who won the National League Central, and they feel they have improved defensively and maybe getting some contributions from some unexpected sources. A guy like Josh Hamilton, who's going to start the year as their fourth outfielder. Optimism reigns supreme, I think, in about 30 major league camps right now.
Well, and you understand it from Cincinnati's perspective. Last year, 80-82, and they struggled miserably in the month of September. And if they had played anywhere close to what they had done for most of the season, they would have been representing the National League Central in the playoffs as the Cardinals had started to fade. So Jerry Naron does a nice job, nice calming influence on this team, and has led them very well.
You're looking at Josh Hamilton, number 33, in the foreground of the picture. The best story in spring training, the best story in many a spring training?
It's an unbelievable story. I mean, a top pick, a superstar talent, starting his career in the Tampa Bay Devil Rays organization. Had an injury in a car accident with his mother, sat out, and from that point got into some things off the field that got him into trouble with drugs and alcohol. Missed almost 4 full seasons, played 15 games of minor league baseball at the short season Class A level within the last 4 years. Selected in the Rule 5 draft by the Chicago Cubs, then traded to sold to the Cincinnati Reds for about $100,000. Had to make the major league team, and he has done that, having an extraordinary spring training. This is a remarkable story for a guy who has not played in 4 seasons and really had only been a Class A player. He now is on a major league team.
And you ask folks who were around their spring training down in Sarasota, they say he was their best player. They're going to find a way to get him in there, even with Dunn, Freel, and Griffey. You figure certainly Freel and Griffey will get time off every now and again. Hamilton can play defense for Dunn, and Hamilton, by the way, got a huge ovation during the introductions before the game, as the starting lineup for the Reds does, as the Reds head out onto the field, and we are ready for baseball here in Cincinnati as we bring you the starting lineup for the Chicago Cubs, presented by Scott. So much attention to being focused on the 40-man Alfonso Soriano, who will lead off and play center field for the Cubs. Matt Merton gets the start today in left field, hit close to 300 a year ago. Derek Lee is healthy after playing only 50 games last year with an injured wrist. He is back, and he had a very good spring. Aramis Ramirez re-signed to a lucrative 5-year deal. He'll be the cleanup hitter. Jock Jones, after a very slow start a year ago, picked it up late and wound up putting out very good numbers for the Cubs. He's the right fielder. Michael Barrett had his best offensive season. He's the catcher. Another newcomer to the Cub team, Mark DeRosa, who can play a number of positions, will be the second baseman primarily for the Cubs. Cesar Torres, a former Gold Glover at short, acquired in the Greg Maddux deal, will bat 8th. And on the mound today, a guy who likes to hit as much as he likes to pitch, Carlos Zambrano, the ace, and probably a guy who's going to be a very rich man in the next few days. And Aaron Harang didn't do too badly last year or with his new deal either.
Now, starting for the Reds, the most underrated starting pitcher in the major leagues. His 16 wins a year ago tied for the league's best. He led the league in strikeouts. He had 35 starts, tied for the most in the National League, and he didn't get a single vote for the Cy Young Award. This guy is an outstanding #1 pitcher.
We've got 2 of the 6 pitchers who tied for the National League lead a year ago in wins with 16 in this game today, as Harang blows one by Soriano, and we are underway here in Cincinnati. An 8-year contract for Soriano, and his 3rd new position in as many seasons, from second to left and now to center. And whereas he wasn't all that excited last year, Steve, in Washington about going to left field, he seems to have embraced the idea of going to center field with the Cubs.
Well, he actually came up with the idea. They were going to not force it on him, and he decided, I'll play. At the Cub Fest this winter, when they were traveling around greeting the fans, trying to stir up excitement, he approached Lou Piniella and Jim Henry, the general manager, and said, you know what, you don't have a center fielder. How about you give me a shot out there? And they said, good idea. Wish we had thought of that, even though it was on their mind.
The 1-2. And Soriano hits a little tapper back to the mound and is retired easily for the first out. Now, the Reds were not a great defensive team a year ago. We talked about some of the changes. Griffey going to right. That means Ryan Freel's now the center fielder.
Well, you build your defense, you want strength up the middle, and they wanted to get more range out of center field. That's what Ryan Freel does. He covers a lot of ground, and he plays with reckless abandon. He will go into the wall. He'll dive. He'll make some dramatic diving plays.
Matt Merton, the #2 hitter today for the Cubs, getting a start in left field. Cliff Floyd is also a Cub now. We mentioned it coming back from Achilles surgery in October. So right now Merton will get the bulk of the at-bats, but it may eventually work itself into a platoon out in left field. Guy who's popular with Cub fans. Not a great fielder, doesn't have a ton of power, but hits for an average. The 0-2 from Harang, and Merton tried to check the swing and succeeded. It's Bob Davidson down at first. Randy Marsh is calling the balls and strikes. Sam Holbrook at second, and Hunter Wendelstedt at third today. I think they feel, and we feel, everybody feels, boy, did we luck out to draw this assignment. I mean, it feels like late May here today. That time he went. 2 down.
We talked about Aaron Harang led the National League in strikeouts last year, and it's because he has an outstanding slider. He starts it on the outside part of the plate and just breaks it down and out. Merton can't hold up. Tried to check at the pitch before, did. Couldn't get away with it this time.
And given how the salaries have exploded for pitchers the last little while, a sound move by the Reds, locking up both Bronson Arroyo and Aaron Harang through 2010. Here's Derek Lee, and by all accounts a very healthy and productive spring. 2 years ago he was great, won the batting title, but then last year the wrist problem cost him most of the season. When this guy's on, he is one of the best all-round, not just offensive players. He's as good a defensive first baseman as there is in the game as well.
Well, it really crippled the Cubs season as well. He's such a prodigious offensive player that when he came out of the lineup, it put so much pressure on the pitching staff. They had to try to be perfect, couldn't do it. The offense pressed, and everything fell apart.
A great leader and as highly respected a teammate, I think, as there is in the game as well. And it was a case of big guy and little guy colliding. Rafael Furcal, the little guy, but Lee got the worst of it. And how many times have we seen first baseman just inadvertently in the line of fire of a base runner?
You know, and the shame of it is there really wasn't even a play there, and he just kind of got in the way and collided and got hurt.
Close but no. 2-2 the count on Lee. 2 outs, nobody on. The Cubs batting in the top of the first on a gorgeous day here in Cincinnati. And the 2-2 is down low, full count. Lee also underwent a much more serious issue last year than the wrist problem, and that was his daughter's diagnosis with a rare congenital eye disease that has cost her part of her vision. She is just 3 years old. And now the Harang went to his mouth. With a 3-2 count, that's a ball, and so in this case that's ball 4. So Lee will draw the walk.
Bob Davidson down at first base came charging in and saw Harang go to his mouth, kind of lick his fingers to be able to get a better grip on the ball. And there are times when umpires will allow that. When it's cooler weather, they'll let you blow on your hands to be able to warm them up and get a grip. 75 and sunny, not one of those days. And Bob Davidson on top of it.
So here's Aramis Ramirez, re-signed to a 5-year deal. Lee is running. Ramirez takes high, throw down, the tag, and they got him. David Ross throws out Derek Lee. And that is all for the Cubs in the first. The Reds will come up against Carlos Zambrano when we come back. David Ross with a terrific throw to get Derek Lee, try to steal to win the top of the first. So we go to the bottom of the first here in Cincinnati. The Reds are coming up as we take a look now at the Cincinnati starting lineup presented by Scott's. Ryan Freel, the everyday center fielder, and the leadoff man for the Reds. Good speed, will get on base any way he can. A ton of power in the 2 spot from Adam Dunn, but a ton of strikeouts as well. Brandon Phillips had a very nice year for the Reds last year. He'll be the number 3 hitter at the outset of this season. Ken Griffey Jr. now in right field, batting cleanup. Edwin Encarnacion, who drove in 72 a year ago, will bat 5th and play third base. Scott Hatteberg, who has a good eye, good on-base percentage, bats 6th. Alex Gonzalez comes over to solidify the defense. He'll bat 7th and be the shortstop. And David Ross coming off a career year for him. He'll be the catcher and bat 8th. Evan Harang on the mound today for the Reds. On the mound for the Cubs, one of the best pitchers in the game, Carlos Zambrano.
25-year-old right-hander and dominant pitcher. The ace of this staff, and he pitches with energy and emotion, and an absolute workhorse as you see the numbers there from last year. And he can log some strikeouts, and got to find the strike zone a little bit more this year, though. 115 walks, a little too much for the quality of arm that he is.
And right on cue, he's followed behind 3-0 on Freel, a guy who used to be kind of a jack of all trades, as he draws up and away, ball 4. Well, let's go back to the last half inning and the way that half inning ended. Derek Lee running on the first pitch.
On the first pitch, and a high pitch for David Ross to throw. But I think the message there, that's Lou Piniella sending a message to the Reds, but I think even more so to Cubs fans into baseball, that he's there. The Cubs are going to be aggressive. There's a new style in Chicago, and it didn't matter that he got thrown out in that situation. They're going to show that they're going to be aggressive in 2007.
And let's see if the Reds are aggressive with Freel on base. Adam Dunn is the batter, and he'll look at a strike. Not your prototypical number 2 hitter, to say the least, although more teams seem to be going with a little bit of thunder up in the 2 spot.
Well, the other thing they like, he's a very patient hitter. He sees a lot of pitches in the top 10 pitches per plate appearance. It allows Ryan Freel to see some pitches, maybe get a jump and steal, and he pulls the ball through the hole with a runner being held on first.
And you see the shift is on as Dunn taps one, foul. No balls and 2 strikes. Dunn with a total of 126 homers the last 3 years, has averaged 42 homers a year the last 3 years, has also averaged 186 strikeouts per year, including the 2 highest totals in Major League history.
Love the homers, hate the strikeouts. The one thing he does walk a lot. So his on-base percentage tends to be pretty good despite a fairly low batting average. Last year only hitting .234.
Zambrano away out in front, 0-2. Freel being held on by Lee, and the pitch taken down and in. Dunn has been reunited with a hitting coach who worked with him in the minors, Brooke Jacoby, who is now the hitting coach of the Reds. And there you can see the 2 strikeout totals we were talking about last year and 2 years before that. Dunn vowing to make more contact, bring the runner in from third, hit some sac flies.
But he can also do that. When he gets a hold of one, forget it. Adam Dunn with a line drive, 2-run shot, and the Reds are on top early.
Well, Brooke Jacoby, the new hitting coach, fixed him. He's better. Well, I tell you, he has prodigious power. That ball got out of here very quickly, and Carlos Zambrano tends to be a little emotional on the mound, and early on he tends to elevate his pitches because he's jumping at the plate. Dunn got a pitch he could drive, and cause for celebration in the Reds dugout.
A 2-0 lead for the Reds. Here at the bottom of the first inning, and the batter is Brandon Phillips, who is the number 3 hitter at the outset of the season. A very important spot for him, batting between Dunn and Griffey. One of general manager Wayne Krivsky's terrific pickups last year. Bronson Arroyo, Brandon Phillips, David Ross, all picked up before or during spring training, and all 3 of them had terrific seasons for the Reds.
Wayne Krivsky got his general manager's job in February of 2006. All the players were pretty much off the board. They went quickly out and signed Scott Hatteberg, but to turn the roster over like he did and have that substantial an impact is absolutely remarkable. I mean, I have to give him a lot of credit. He made some dramatic moves that really turned the tide here and turned really the impression of this team. The fans started to believe there was something special going on. You see the guys there he brought in. Those are pretty good numbers for players brought in spring training, early season acquisitions. Wayne's done a terrific job here in Cincinnati, turning the tide.
Of course, the nature of fans being as fickle as they are, when he made the trade with Washington and the relievers, Majeski and Abreu, either got hurt or didn't do as well. Now, you know, there's a portion of the fans who turn on him because that's the nature of the beast as Phillips strikes out. But there's no question, and he's made a ton of moves, there's no question that this organization, not just the major league team, this organization is improving and is in better shape right now than they've been in recent years.
There's no question. One of the other big moves is Ken Griffey Jr. being shifted over to right field, which was an organizational decision. They just need him to be in the lineup and swing the bat, though.
The much publicized broken hand in the offseason, wrestling with his kids. And it took him a long time in the spring before he was healthy enough to get into games. He is now the right fielder as he takes a pitch over the outside corner for a strike. Tied with Reggie Jackson for 10th all time on the home run list. Zambrano surrendering a home run to Adam Dunn here in the first inning. Big sweeping breaking ball that misses, and it's 2 balls and a strike on Griffey.
I like what Michael Barrett's done here, though. Zambrano's kind of rushing. He went to 2 changeups and a breaking ball to Griffey to try to slow him down.
Now the fastball, and it's looped into shallow left field. A base hit for Griffey. You talked about how emotional Zambrano can be at the beginning of a game. This is not only is it opening day, everybody knows that he appears to be on the verge of signing a huge contract. He's gone out and said, hey, I'm going to win the Cy Young and we're going to win the World Series and this and that. And I mean, he's still only 25, but a very emotional guy. And this has got to be, he's got to work hard now to bring it back down a little bit and straighten this out.
Well, they talked to Lou Piniella about his proclamations about the Cy Young and the World Series. Lou said, I'd like him to just tone it down just a little bit.
Edwin Encarnacion skies the ball to left field. Merton is there for the second out.
Well, Zambrano has just quality stuff on the mound, and that energy, that passion is part of what makes him very special. I mean, he is a great competitor, but it also does get him in trouble sometimes because it causes him to jump at the hitter. And when your lower half gets out in front, it means your arm can't get there, and you elevate your pitches, and it can get you in trouble on occasion.
Lou Piniella looking pretty mellow so far, maybe a little bit frustrated. His team down early 2-0. Scott Hatteberg is the batter. First pitch swinging past the mound, charged by DeRosa, flipped to first in time, and that's all for the Reds here in the bottom of the first. But they strike first. Adam Dunn with his 4th career opening day home run, and there wasn't much doubt about it. 2-0 Cincinnati through 1. This telecast is available on ESPN2 HD, presented by Olivia. Welcome back to the Great American Ballpark. A 2-0 lead for the Reds as we go to the top of the second on a home run by Adam Dunn in the bottom of the first. Aramis Ramirez up again. He was the batter when Derek Lee was thrown out trying to steal to end the top of the first. 38 homers and 119 RBIs for Ramirez last season. The Cubs did not have a good year in any respect, really. They lost 96 games, but offensively, with Lee out and Ramirez struggled the first time Lee was out, the outfield didn't give him a whole lot of offense. This was not a good offensive ball club. Obviously, Soriano's going to help, but you still look at this team, not just offensively, and you say, well, yeah, they spent a lot of money and they're going to be better, but there still are some holes on this team.
But they are going to be better in a division where I think the teams that have been at the top may have fallen back to the pack a little bit. I mean, they had a long way to go, being 15th in runs scored and 14th in ERA last year, but they spent the money and addressed some of the needs. Ted Lilly and Jason Marquis added to the rotation to support Carlos Zambrano.
2-2 pitch sent to center field, fairly deep but playable for Freel for the first out. Ryan Freel just a few days ago in a spring training game, after he told himself he's going to try to lay up a little bit and take it easy, crashed into a wall making an extraordinary catch and was banged up and sat out a couple of days, and he just doesn't know how to play at anything other than full speed.
Well, he's wired in one way, and that's just to play hard all the time. And you know, he does play with reckless abandon and exposes himself to injury because of it.
Jock Jones, the batter, and he'll look at a strike. Second year as a Cub for Jones, who hit 27 homers, drove an 81 a year ago.
Tough year for him last year. Got off to a slow start, and boy, the Wrigley Field faithful rode him hard.
Yeah.
But I tell you, this is one of the finer guys in the game. A hard worker. He had 27 home runs last year. He's no slouch. He's a good player.
Takes outside, 2-1.
I asked him about that before the game, and he says, you know what? I get to play professional baseball and go out there on a beautiful day like this. Life is good.
Good attitude. Bouncer to the right side. Phillips up with it, and quickly 2 down. Aaron Harang appears sharp in the early going. So 2 outs, nobody on, and now Harang will face Michael Barrett, the Cub catcher, who had his best offensive season a year ago, hitting over 300. Belted out 16 home runs. Last year on opening day, the Cubs came here and they beat the Reds 16-7, and they beat up on Aaron Harang. To right field. Griffey. Just his second career start in right field. Runs it down, heading toward the corner as the Cubs go in order here in the top of the second.
ESPN Opening Day is built by the Home Depot. You can do it, we can help. And in part by Lexus and their pursuit of perfection. DirecTV. There's good TV, there's better TV, and then there's DirecTV. And Sonic. It's not just good, it's Sonic good.
Back in Cincinnati, Dan Schulman and Steve Phillips with you. Opening day from the Great American Ballpark. A 2-0 lead in the bottom of the second for the Reds over Carlos Zambrano and the Cubs. Bottom third of the order, Alex Gonzalez, David Ross, and then Aaron Harang. The Reds signing Gonzalez to improve their infield defense. No less of an authority than Davey Concepcion, whose opinion obviously holds a lot of weight here in this town, says, you know what, he's better than I was. A pop-up at a very shallow left field. Merton coming in on this very sunny day makes the catch for the out as we go back to Scott Reese for an update.
All right, Dan, it's the first opening day game in the nation's capital since 1971, but the home team not faring so well. Miguel Cabrera, 2-run homer, 2-run double.
Go look at his career numbers. Understand he's 24 years old.
6-1 Marlins over the Nats, Dan.
Well, it's expected to be a long year for the Nationals. John Patterson on the mound today. He's really the one reasonably well-known commodity they've got going into the season in that rotation. David Ross, the batter.
It is going to be real tough in Washington this year. They just, they're trying to rebuild and do it the right way and build it kind of the Atlanta Braves way of Stan Kasten, the president of the team. But to do that, it's going to take some time, and they're going to take some lumps in the meantime.
New ballpark next year means new revenues, and that can only help.
I mean, it's a large market. I mean, it's a large market. They're going to generate the revenues there. And they have some core players. I mean, Ryan Zimmerman, third baseman, fantastic young-looking player, broke into the major leagues last year.
Pitch at the knees, in for a strike. 2-1 on David Ross, the Reds catcher, who's questioning Randy Marsh. Maybe didn't get that kind of a call when his pitcher was on the mound. Ross, one of 3 catchers on the Reds roster. Had his best season last year, although he wore down in August and September. But the first 4 months, he put up numbers that people just couldn't believe.
Well, Wayne Kripke, the general manager, is an old-school guy. He's a scout. He was scouting with the Twins organization. His name is on David Ross. He wanted him. He got him. And what an impact he made on this team. And you're talking about a guy with 20-plus home runs in the 8 hole in your lineup. That talks about depth. And he can throw a little bit, too, as we saw in the first inning when he gunned down Derek Lee. A well-rounded player, and really ran Jason LaRue, who had been the catcher here, signed to a long-term deal. They ran him out of town.
LaRue with the Royals right now, as this pitch is fouled back just over our heads. The count remains at 2-2 on Ross.
You all right?
I'm all right. You're the infielder.
Yeah.
I'm the non-athlete. Make a play. I don't want to hear you say you got it. I want to hear you say, I got it. 2-2 pitches high, 3-2. Zambrano, maybe a little bit flustered here in the early going. Gave up a couple of runs in the first. We alluded to it briefly. It's expected that he is going to sign a 5-year deal in the next few days. They just extended a deadline. Bouncer down to third. Ramirez will get him 2 down. Originally, Zambrano said, if they don't sign me by opening day, I'm gone after the season. Then he said, if they don't sign me by opening day, I'm not going to talk about it during the season. But obviously, Steve, they've made enough progress that they're going to talk about it, and it's expected to be a formality at this point.
You look at the numbers, you understand why they want to keep him. They're talking about 5 years in the $80 to $85 million range, which in my mind is a hometown discount, because when you compare Carlos Zambrano and his numbers to Barry Zito, and Barry Zito getting the 7 years, $126 million contract, Zambrano's numbers are better, and he's younger.
You heard Tim Kirchin talk about how Miguel Cabrera is only 24 years old. Look at what he's done. It seems like Zambrano's been around forever, but he's only 25 years old.
His most wins of any active pitcher under 26 years of age.
Bouncer to short is Torres up with it, and that's all for the Reds in the bottom of the second. Zambrano can swing the bat a little bit as well, and we'll see him hit in the top of the third. 2-0 Reds.
ESPN Opening Day, built by the Home Depot. Brought to you by the new Variety Big Box from KFC. Fill up on all your favorites at KFC. And K-Swiss.
Welcome back to Cincinnati as we go to the top of the third inning. The Reds lead 2-0 on a home run by Adam Dunn. Back in the first, off Carlos Zambrano, Mark DeRosa, the Cubs' second baseman, leads off the inning and looks at a strike from Aaron Harang. Another one of the free agent acquisitions, a 3-year deal for DeRosa, who was with Texas last year, coming off his best major league season. And a guy who can play 4 or 5 positions, but it looks like he's going to be their second baseman for the most part.
I think primarily he will play second base, but they have Ryan Theriot, another young player with great energy, whose best position is second. So a lot of options for Lou Piniella.
2-1 the count on DeRosa. Cesar Torres on deck. Lou Piniella, another one of the new faces, a familiar face, but a new face in Chicago. Didn't go to rebuild, went to win, as he says, as the ball's fouled off 2-2. And all told, the Cubs, including Piniella and all the players, Steve, they shelled out about $300 million.
So the interesting thing is, with all these contracts, they went from about $97, $98 million in payroll last year to only about $104 this year. All that means is that money's backloaded for whoever wants the sale of the Chicago Cubs. You're buying the future money.
Which happened today. It was announced that not just the team, that there's a new owner of the whole Tribune company, and that the team is going to be sold, is likely going to be sold off, we understand, but not till after the season. There's a line drive that bounces in front of Freel, a base hit for DeRosa. We go back to Scott and Tim in the studio.
All right, Dan, Papa John's takes us to Yankee Stadium, Devil Rays Yankees, and welcome to the Bigs, Elijah Duke. How about your first Major League hits a home run?
Well, there's never been a question about his ability, his speed, his power. We saw the power there.
Well, plenty of questions surrounding Carl Pavano, who is now out of the game. Rocco Baldelli singles home Carl Crawford. Devil Rays down 3-0, now up 4-3. Dan?
Well, the headline writers for the back pages of the tabloids in New York are already furiously trying to think of a way to work Pavano's name into it. But opening day starter out of necessity. Wong on the DL, Pettit a bit of a cranky back. Messina would have had to have gone on short rest, so no other choice but Pavano, and it doesn't go all that well.
And that's probably not the end of the scoring at Yankee Stadium either with that Yankee lineup.
Here's his Torres. Torres, a gifted defensive player, has had some injuries the last couple of years, acquired from the Dodgers for Greg Maddux at the trading deadline last year. And Lou Piniella says, he envisions playing him about 125, 130 games this year. Hit very well in the spring. Slashes it foul, 1-2.
He's really a good player, Cesar Torres. Former Gold Glove winner, shortstop, had an injury, arm surgery. Missed most of the season last year, came back and worked his way in, and pretty much lost his job when the Dodgers signed Rafael Furcal, but has found a new home here in Chicago, and I think he's an important acquisition for this team because he can pick it defensively.
2-2.
Nice block by David Ross. That ball in the dirt, keeping it in front with DeRosa on first base, so he can't advance.
I think all these players have some butterflies, each and every one of them, just because it's opening day.
I think you got to get through your first at bat. I think once you get your first at bat, then you feel like you're playing baseball again. But what a crowd, what a day.
In the air to shallow left. Gonzalez going back. Dunn coming in, and Dunn, who had a few adventures defensively on opening day here a year ago, makes the catch for the out. Didn't look like Elijah Dukes had any nerves.
No, he didn't. A lot of times with young guys, you want to get your first out of the way, so you're going to go up there hacking to swing the bat your first time up, just in case you hit it, and sometimes you run into it.
Well, here's a guy who likes to go up there hacking, arguably the best hitting pitcher in the game, the Silver Slugger Award winner. Amongst pitchers last year, Zambrano hit 6 home runs a year ago. He's not up there to take. He's a switch hitter as well. I mean, he's really the whole package.
He takes it seriously.
Yeah, he does.
6 home runs, the second most of any pitcher. Mike Hampton hit 7 when he was with the Colorado Rockies previously.
And he bunts it foul, 0-2. Back in the spring, Carlos Zambrano, who, as Steve mentioned, takes his hitting very seriously. Now, this is a spring game. The Cubs are up big in the first inning, and Zambrano gets into one to deep right center, and the big fella is thinking 3, but he only winds up at about 2.5. Gets up and gets to third base.
He's got to replace his divot, but how about that? Look at the score, 6-0 in the first inning of a spring training game with 2 outs.
And he is gone right here, chasing a pitch out of the zone. Zambrano, as we say in the business, is good TV. Never a dull moment with Carlos Zambrano.
I mean, think about it. There's 2 outs. You stop at second base, and you're going for a big-time contract. Don't get hurt. But he plays to win. That passion and energy makes him special, but it's also that thing that can get him in trouble on occasion.
He strikes out for the second out of the inning. DeRosa still at first, 2 down, and here's Soriano, who tapped back to the mound his first time. You and I both spent some time down in Florida during spring training, but the folks who were closer to the scene in Arizona where the Cubs were, the phrase I kept hearing about his work out in center field was a work in progress. It's coming, but it's still got a ways to go. A fly ball to right field. Griffey giving chase over near the corner, and this ball is foul.
That is not a ringing endorsement of anybody's defense. It's kind of like, well, he or she has a good personality. I mean, here's the thing. He transitioned to left field last year, now making the move to center field. There are some in the game who will say center field is an easier position to play than left field or right because you get better reads of the ball coming off the bat. You see him as a second baseman in the past. Even the Yankees, when he was there was a lot of talk about him moving to the outfield, but was very resistant. He moved out to left field begrudgingly last year, but now he thanked Jim Bowden, general manager of the Nationals, for the opportunity. Because in reality, what did it made him more marketable. He was more valuable.
Yeah.
As a free agent, you had teams that wanted a DH. He fit them. At second base, he fit those clubs, and in the outfield, he fit them. He has the athletic ability to be a good outfielder, but it takes instincts and it takes experience to read the ball off the bat.
Committed 11 errors last year, not a good total at all for an outfielder. Had a major league leading 22 outfield assists, but that can be kind of a misleading statistic.
Absolutely. What that means is they didn't believe you'd be able to get to the ball, catch it, transfer it, and throw it accurately to get somebody out. So outfield assists mean they were running on you.
Off the glove of Encarnacion into left center for a base hit, a rounding second, heading for third, DeRosa. On what will be scored a single for Soriano.
Well, Soriano has that kind of swing where he just uncoils at the plate, and he can jump on a fastball very well. This pitch was on the outer part of the plate, and he kind of extended a little bit to get to it. You see David Ross sitting off the plate on a slider. He gets out and hooks it. Encarnacion with a great effort to dive, couldn't quite get to it. Good base running by DeRosa, getting to third.
So runners on the corners with 2 down. The Cubs trailing the Reds 2-0 here in the top of the third, and the batter now is Matt Merton, who struck out against Harang back in the first inning. Where do you think Soriano's power, his strength, comes from, considering if you're standing beside him, he looks like a skinny guy. There's not a lot of meat on his bones.
Well, you know, people are misled. They think power comes from big muscles. It comes from rotation in your swing. It's the rotation of the bottom half. And you watch his swing, he has this uncoiling he does, and that's where the power comes from.
Fouled off 0-2.
See if Lupinella gets Soriano running here just to stir things up a little bit. Down 2 runs, but with an 0-2 count. Might get an infielder moving on a pitch and find a hole.
Merton's gone again, and the inning is over. 3 strikeouts for Harang. We'll see Adam Dunn, who's already homered today when the Reds come up.
Scott Reese, Tim Kirkchin, SportsCenter in-game update. Braves and Phils, 2-2 game in the 6th. And Aaron Rowland getting a little help from new second baseman Kelly Johnson.
I think Kelly Johnson must have lost that in the sun. That ball's got to be caught.
They called it an RBI single. It is 3-2, guys.
Well, that's one of the things the Braves are thinking about going into the season. Can Kelly Johnson, who, as you mentioned, is or was an outfielder, can he play a competent second base for the Braves? They've made a lot of changes. They have strength in their bullpen. I know a lot of people are looking at the Braves. Hey, don't forget about Atlanta. Don't sleep on them in the National League East. Ryan Freel leads off the bottom of the third for the Reds. 2-1 the count. Freel walked and scored on the Adam Dunn home run back in the first inning. And the big guy's on deck.
Talk about the Atlanta Braves. They find ways to get away with doing things that not many other teams can. You talk about Kelly Johnson, drafted as a shortstop, quickly converted to the outfield. He's never played second base prior to this year. In fact, he didn't even play at all last season because he had Tommy John surgery.
Bouncer over the mound. This will be trouble with Freel's speed.
He's heading for second. Big bounce back to Lee, and the throw will get him. Boy, what a good bounce there for the Cubs. And Freel's turning around saying, how did that ball get to second base so quickly?
Well, sometimes better lucky than good. And in this situation, Asturis on a do-or-die play charges hard, barehands the ball. But sometimes when you do that, it's tough to get a grip. As you see Asturis come, he's going to try to get his body around the ball to barehand it. But it's tough to get a grip. He throws it wide. But the perfect bounce, boy, good news for the Cubs right there. Derek Lee barehands it coming back. He gets a little better grip. Throws it to Mark DeRosa for the out at second base.
Freel still shaking his head. He gets a nice ovation from the fans who always appreciate his hustle. Adam Dunn, another drive way out of here in right center. 2 at-bats and 2 home runs for Adam Dunn. If I'm Brooke Jacoby, I'm going in and asking for a raise right now.
Well, that right there is why they need to get more contact from him. He's got to get himself in counts and be more aggressive. He gets more swings and misses than most hitters in the major leagues. He's in the top 5 in swings and misses, but he's also very patient. Not a good combination. When he makes contact, he does damage. They need more contact. He doesn't need to center the ball with that strength to drive it out of the park. That's a man right there.
We might have our first curtain call of the young season. They want Adam Dunn to come out. 2 home runs today for Adam Dunn. And here he comes. It's a pretty good start to the season. Get a curtain call in the 3rd inning on opening day.
I don't know. I'm retiring after that one. I pulled a hammy. I'm done for the year.
Good breaking ball there by Zambrano with a count 0-2 on Brandon Phillips.
One thing to keep in mind, remember we had Ryan Freel throwing out at second base. If it comes back to be a close game, it'd be a deciding run because home run would have scored 2 there.
Well, Alfonso Soriano may still be adapting to center field, but he knew enough to know that there was no point chasing that one to the wall. He hardly moved. On the appeal, he didn't go. 2-2. Crowd is still buzzing about that home run by Adam Dunn. His 200th career home run. Look out. Count full now on Phillips.
You figure Dunn's probably going to get around 550 plate appearances at bats this year. He's on pace to hit 550 homers for the year.
Elias give you that, or did you come up with that on yourself?
No, you know, actually.
Well, let's go back and take a look at it.
The ball comes off Adam Dunn's bat differently than most any other hitter. It sounds different. It looks different. Alfonso Soriano must have heard it. He said, yeah, I don't think I can run a little bit, but I'm not going to run that one down as it hits off the batter's eye in deep center field.
And I think if every hitter in the majors hits the ball as hard as they can, Adam Dunn's ball will go the furthest. He is as strong or stronger than anybody else in the game. Here's Griffey, and he'll look at a strike.
Dunn has what scouts write reports as light tower power. You know, he's the kind of guy that just hits those deep, high fly balls. Now, he's hit a couple scorchers here today. Some of those adjustments Brooke Jacoby's made working out.
Griffey with a base hit his first time up has had 1 play in right field, fairly routine, and he made it look easy. Just the 2nd time in his career he has ever started a game in right field. The first time came back in 2004 after he came back from a hamstring injury. Came back and they decided, well, let's put him in right. He won't have to run as much. And in the 4th inning of that game, tried to run a ball down, aggravated the hamstring injury, and basically was done for the season. Pitch in the dirt, runner going, and in standing up.
Good base running there, reading the ball in the dirt. Phillips saw the slider going down in the dirt, and Michael Barrett does a good job keeping it in front. Good read by Phillips right there. Doesn't hesitate at all. That's quality base running. Good instincts on the bases. Anticipating the ball in the dirt. Getting himself in scoring position.
So a wild pitch charge to Zambrano and to Michael Barrett. You could see him look into the dugout, clearly under orders to go out to the mound and try to settle down his pitcher. Now this is just part of the opening day festivities all around the country today and on ESPN and ESPN2. Tonight on ESPN2 it'll be Baltimore up in Minnesota to take on Johan Santana and the Twins, and then the late game tonight, the Rangers and the Angels going at it at 10 o'clock Eastern. ESPN News available in select areas. Not the kind of start Carlos Zambrano was looking for here today. He has been victimized twice by Adam Dunn. Now 3-1 the count on Griffey. Be interesting to track Minnesota during the year with all the questions they had about their rotation coming into the spring. have they answered some of those questions now? Radke's retired. Liriano's out for the year. And Griffey will take ball 4, so it'll be 2 on with 1 out. 3 walks given up by Zambrano, and he's going to get a visit from his pitching coach, Larry Rothschild.
When you talk about the Minnesota Twins, I mean, I think they start with the Cy Young Award winner, the batting champion, and the league's MVP from last year. But they need a supporting cast as well, and I think it's going to be a real question whether they have the pitching to be able to do it. Now, they sent down 2 good young kids, and Matt Garza and Glenn Perkins, and they're going with Ramon Ortiz and Sidney Ponson. And I think this is a good example that when the regular season starts, teams don't always start with the best 25 players on the roster. They have in mind, you know what, over the course of 162 games, we want the best 30 players available, 35 players available, knowing there are going to be injuries, there are going to be players who struggle, and they want to bring the young guys up later to be that burst of energy they need.
And they're playing in, I don't even think you could say arguably the toughest division in baseball. It is the toughest division in baseball. You've got 4 very, very good teams in the American League Central. Edwin Encarnacion takes high, and one of them, Cleveland, is leading another one of them, the White Sox, 9-2 in the 3rd inning. Opening day on the south side of Chicago, not going well for the home team. Cleveland, a team a lot of people are keeping an eye on this year. Encarnacion with a bouncer to 3rd. Ramirez steps on the bag for the first, for 1 out. That's all he can get. 2 outs now in the inning. 1st and 2nd, 2 down. Last year's American League Central, people almost forget that the Twins caught and passed the Tigers and won the division right on the last day of the season. And the Indians, I think everybody's expecting them to have a much better record this year.
Well, their bullpen really struggled last season, but for me, the Cleveland Indians have a lot of talent. They need 2 things to happen. CC Sabathia has to emerge as the stopper, the guy who stops these losing streaks. And Travis Hafner or Grady Sizemore has to become the leader of the position players to say it's time to play good baseball.
Scott Hatteberg, the batter, with 2 on and 2 out. The Indians tried to shore up their bullpen as well in the offseason and added some veteran arms. They had some awful numbers out of the pen last year.
Still think the Tigers the class of that division, though, even with Kenny Rogers out till at least after the All-Star break.
Roller out to 2nd. DeRosa on to 1st. That's all for Hatteberg and the Reds, but not before the big guy strikes again. Adam Dunn has hit not 1 but 2 home runs here on opening day. 3-0 Reds. Top of the 4th inning here in Cincinnati with Steve Phillips. I'm Dan Schulman. Opening day baseball built by the Home Depot. Derek Lee looks at a strike from a very sharp Aaron Harang. Harang and Adam Dunn the stories. Dunn's homered twice, and Harang's been at the top of his game through the first 3 innings. A 16-game winner from a year ago, led the National League in strikeouts. Former Oakland A, acquired in a deal a few years ago. As Lee fouls one off out of play to the right.
You take a look at why he's being effective, Aaron Harang, today, and he's throwing strikes. 11 out of 12 first pitch strikes today. Pounding the strike zone, working ahead in the count, and then going to a slider for the put-away pitch.
The Reds feel that they can take their top 2 guys, Aaron Harang and Bronson Arroyo, and in name value, maybe they don't stack up to the top 2 of some other teams around baseball, but they feel their top 2 compares favorably with just about any other combination of the game. Making pitching coach Dick Pohl's job a little bit easier. At least 2 days out of every 5. The other 3 he might earn his money.
Well, that's what they're having to piece together is the back end of that rotation. But having a 1-2 punch can go a long way, particularly in a division where not all the other teams really have that 1-2 punch. They may have the 1 ace like the Cardinals and the Astros, but not the supporting cast.
3-2 pitch hit in the air to right center field. Freel's got room, 1 down. Well, how many people outside the greater Cincinnati area know that Aaron Harang led the National League in strikeouts last year, or that Bronson Arroyo led the league in innings? They combined, these 2 pitchers, for 475 innings.
Now that's a lot of innings, and they're going to have to really watch that a little bit this year, which means the bullpen's going to come into play in a much more important way, and that was the Achilles heel last year for this Reds team.
Aramis Ramirez, first pitch swinging, pops one out of play.
The thing about Harang and Bronson Arroyo, though, when you look at their deliveries, they're not maximum effort guys. They're free and easy, smooth, easy throwers. You know, it's not like they're putting every effort into it. You picture Kenny Rogers in the World Series last year, how he put emotion into every single pitch he threw to the plate. They have nice, easy, smooth deliveries. Ball comes out of their hand well.
1-1 the count on Ramirez. Right now, Eric Milton, who's projected to be a starter on the DL with the back spasms. Kyle Loesch, who has never quite, I think, fulfilled the potential that many see in him, is in the rotation as the ball is lined into right field. A base hit in front of Griffey. Ramirez is aboard. Matt Belisle is in the rotation right now. Kirk Saarloos lost out on that last spot, so he's the long man. The Reds, whether it was Jim Bowden or Wayne Krivsky, I mean, they're always moving guys in, moving guys out. Let's give this guy a chance. Let's see if he's got anything left. And, you know, every now and again they find a diamond in the rough.
Well, that is what you have to do when you're a smaller market team. You can't go out and buy everything. You have to try to get people when they're down and have reclamation projects and try to catch lightning in a bottle.
Jock Jones, the batter, and you just caught a glimpse of maybe the ultimate reclamation project. We talked about him earlier in Josh Hamilton as Jones steps in. Hamilton got a huge ovation before the game, and it's expected that he's going to get a lot of playing time this season, even if he's not one of the 3 starters. I mean, everybody who saw him before, back when, said just as good a talent as anybody's ever seen. Could do everything, and the All-American kid, first overall pick in '99 until drugs and alcohol got a hold of him.
I mean, and the Reds saw that in spring training. He hit monster home runs. He made throws from the outfield wall.
Off the foot of Jones, foul ball.
He made a throw from the outfield wall and a laser to throw a guy out at the plate that people just are still talking about. And he has, when they talk about 5 tools, that power, that arm strength, that speed, he has all of the tools to play the game. The question is, are they translated into skills? Typically, tools take development. They take minor league games to develop into skills to play the game. He's had 15 minor league games in the last 4 years.
Amazing. And
he excelled in spring training. It's one of the most unbelievable stories that people need to understand. It just doesn't happen like this.
The game's harder than that.
It should be. It was for me. But what a great story and an inspiration. And I mean, you know, somebody will make a movie about this because what he has gone through and overcome, and the people in the support group around him, it really is amazing.
Bouncer up the middle. Great stop. The dive to the bag, but not in time. Gonzalez with an A effort, but could not lunge back to the bag in time, and that'll be a base hit for Jock Jones.
Well, as much as that goes down in the books as a single, that should be a sign of hope for the Cincinnati Reds fans as you hear them stand and cheer right now. Shortstop defense was a major problem last year for this team, and they just saw a glimpse of the dramatic improvement they're going to get out of the middle infield this season. That is a tremendous effort in play by Alex Gonzalez, one of the best defensive infielders in the game.
The Cubs threatening, down 3-0 here in the top of the 4th. Runners at first and second, 1 out for Michael Barrett.
When you have a faulty defense in the infield, it changes the way pitchers pitch at times. They want to try to miss bats. They want to try to work around it to try to get easier plays. When you know you can throw it over and the guys behind you can make plays for you, it completely changes your level of aggressiveness.
And when you have a staff that's not outstanding to begin with and the defense behind them isn't great and you play in a hitter's park, I mean, it's just kind of a recipe for disaster for the confidence of the pitchers.
And the Reds don't have the payroll to go out and dramatically do what the Cubs did. They had to look for subtle ways to improve their team. Defense is a good one. The change with Freel in center field, with Alex Gonzalez at shortstop. They are a better team just by some of the shifts.
They went around a 1-2. Barrett not happy with that call from Randy Marsh.
Catchers always expect to get the benefit of the doubt, don't they, behind the plate there? You know, that slider makes you think fastball to begin with, and when you see it break, oftentimes you break down your swing and try to hold up. Couldn't quite do it.
Clayton and Felipe Lopez, who both spent time with Cincinnati last year. You can see how Gonzalez's numbers compare favorably with both of them. play to the right side. And Gonzalez, because he has spent most of his career, was in Boston last year, but most of his career playing down in Florida. A lot of people didn't know how really good this guy was defensively.
He is. I mean, and what I like is they got him at a very good contract as well. I mean, where all of the other guys, Julio Lugo went for $9 million a year. He's in about the $3.5 million per year range, and you're going to get better defense from him and a little bit of pop in his bat as well.
2-2. And another nice block there by Ross. Good form.
Outstanding job. That slider oftentimes comes up a little short to keep it in front. Again, in a 3-2 game, if that ball goes to the screen, you're talking about 2 runners getting in scoring position. See Ross setting up outside. Outstanding job. Collapses, goes to his knees, rounds his shoulders, glove, protects the hole through the middle. Textbook.
Full count pitch. And do it all over again as Barrett fights off the knee-high fastball. The Cubs trying to break through and get something across against Harang here in the 4th inning. Mark DeRosa, the on-deck hitter, had a base hit his first time up. Shallow right field over near the line. Griffey will run it down. Second play he's made out there in the right field today, and he's looked pretty comfortable on both of them. And for the Reds fans, whether it's Dunn's home runs, Gonzalez's effort, Freel's hustle, Griffey's playing right, they've had a lot to cheer about here early today.
Well, that's saying thanks for moving to right field, Ken. And they asked him, how are you going to be out in right field? He said, listen, I play baseball. It's what I do. Tracking the ball for him isn't going to be tough. I mean, he missed the first 22 spring training games this year, recovering from the broken hand. The first game back, 2 for 4. I mean, he can play. He's a baseball player. Nothing too hard for him on the field.
So now 2 on 2 out, and the batter DeRosa, and that one's going to get away from Ross. Tried to backhand it, may have hit his shin guard, and then bounced to the backstop, and the runners will advance.
Well, Harang throws that slider down in the dirt quite a bit, trying to get the hitters to chase. You see where Ross did a good job earlier blocking it. He kind of reached across his body for that one and skipped away.
Scored a wild pitch, but Ross will be the first to tell you if he could do that one again, he'd play it differently. Now a base hit could score a couple. Pitch upstairs, and the count 2-0 on DeRosa. Former quarterback at Penn back in his college days.
Well, this would be a great situation for DeRosa to win over the Cubs fans early in his Cubs career.
3-0.
Harang may be opting to go after Cesar Asturis in the on-deck circle in this situation.
Ramirez at third, Jones at second with 2 down. Belt high strike, 3-1.
Not really where Harang wanted that pitch to be, though. Kind of an up and in fastball, and they were set up down and away, and a dangerous pitch. Although likely taking on 3-0.
Not taking on 3-1.
Well, same spot. Aaron Harang, maybe hitting a little bit of a wall here because he's missing. David Ross is setting up down and away. You see where they're set up where the glove is, and that ball's coming up and in. That's a danger zone right there, particularly on a 3-1 count when the hitter's looking for something to drive.
Let's see if he tries to overpower him again with a full count. 3-2. Fastball fouled off to the right.
A little bit better where he wanted it there. Extended out in front to be able to get to the outer part of the plate.
There was a time when pitchers would get to opening day ready to go 9 innings. Now you hear about, 90 to 100 pitches, 6 or 7 innings, and we'll call that a pretty good day. And he's having to work hard here this inning against DeRosa. You see most teams, just about all teams, carrying 12-man pitching staffs. One team, I'm trying to remember who it was, is carrying a 13-man pitching staff starting the season. Check the swing, up and in, ball 4, bases loaded for his Torres.
We talk about pitch counts and numbers of pitches, and it's not always just the total accumulation of pitches. sometimes it's the concentration of them. How many in a certain inning? We're seeing a lot of pitches this inning from Harang. Typically, when a pitcher gets beyond 13, 14, 15 pitches, there's some vulnerability to fatigue within the inning. He needs recovery time, and that's where you can make some mistakes.
It's a great opportunity here for the Cubs. Bases loaded, 2 down for his Taurus. Out in front, it looked like maybe a changeup there from Harang, and his Taurus was out in front as he pops it up on the middle of the infield, and the Cubs will leave him loaded against Harang here in the top of the 4th.
Scott Reese with a SportsCenter in-game update. Good ball game on opening day in Philly. Braves and Phils 3-2 in the 8th until Edgar Renteria ties it up with one mighty swing, and we've got ourselves a brand new ball game, 3-3 bottom 8.
Well, Scott, that's going to be one of the questions about the Phillies is how is that bullpen going to perform? Can they get leads to Tom Gordon? And then Gordon, who they kind of brought along slowly in the spring, how healthy is he, and can he duplicate the kind of season he had a year ago?
I like the improved starting pitching for the Phillies. I like their offense, but you're right. That bridge from the starting pitching to the closer is the big question mark. There was a lot of talk they were going to trade John Lieber to try to land a reliever. Lieber starts on the DL, not available for any deal.
3-team race in the NL East?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I mean, questions with the Mets starting pitching. Questions with the bullpen in Philly, and I guess questions on the right side of the infield for the Atlanta Braves. Scott Thorman, rookie first baseman. Kelly Johnson, we saw drop the pop up at second base.
Pitch outside, 3-1 the count on Alex Gonzalez. Saw him briefly earlier. Pete Rose is here at the Great American Ballpark. The first time he's taken in a game here in this stadium. According to Rose, bought himself a couple of tickets. That's how he got here. It's going to be a tough play. Zambrano he was caught in between. He really didn't know what to do, and he might have come up a little bit gimpy. He did not look very comfortable after he kind of drifted into foul territory, but as he walks it off back to the mound, it looks like he's okay.
Well, the trainer going out. Zambrano's not the best athlete. You see the ball come off the mound as he finishes falling to first base. It's a do-or-die play. Not one you want to see him throw there. That's a base hit all the way. They should be yelling to him to just eat the ball. He didn't have any chance at all. And sometimes with pitchers, when their body's moving one direction, thrown across their body the other way, they can do some damage. And you certainly don't want that, as he is absolutely critical to their success. But you're right. I saw him kind of limp or
just a step or two.
Grimace a little bit. Tough guy, though. And that wasn't nearly as bad as the fall rounding second base in spring training, so I got to believe he'll be all right.
Degree of difficulty wasn't quite as high on this one as it was on that one. Zambrano's going to stay. Lou Piniella got halfway out to the mound before he turned around after Zambrano had told the trainer that he was okay. And here's David Ross. Drawing the throw is Gonzalez, who has average speed as best, not really a big base stealing threat. Ross had 21 homers last year and just 252 at bats. And over the deal from San Diego as he rips one foul third base side.
You know, when you see David Ross and when he finally got an opportunity to play, the production he delivered, there are other players out there like him. And it takes good scouting and recognition to try to find them, and then a place where they can get an opportunity to play to show that they can produce. And I mean, who would have known? He bounced around to 3 or 4 different teams and finally got a chance to play and showed he had some power.
Zambrano's kind of preoccupied with Alex Gonzalez here at first base.
And no reason to do so. Gonzalez one stolen base last year. Now, again, the Red Sox didn't run very much, but you're right. He's not a big base stealing threat. Ross, not a guy that's a typical hit and run.
Ball and a strike.
But not a bad time for the Reds to try to do something with Harang on deck to get a runner in scoring position and use Ross to do it. Try to keep adding on, tacking on runs.
Go to first. We've seen Ken Griffey for the Reds have a couple of plays in right field. I don't think, as I look down at my scorecard here, that we've seen Alfonso Soriano tested it all in center field for the Cubs. He's still waiting for his first action of the day. Between Soriano in center, Griffey in right, Josh Hamilton here, the Zambrano contract, the Cubs being sold. There's a lot going on here this afternoon.
Lou Piniella,
Lou
2
Piniella,
home runs.
that's right. Yeah.
No, the outfield defense for the Cubs is a question mark because in left field, Matt Merton and Cliff Floyd are not known for their defense. They're bats. Soriano, new in center field, going to have to feel his way through. Jock Jones is adequate in right.
Down the right field line, Jones will have a play. Clear territory, he'll make the catch for the out. Gonzalez back to first. Scott Reese and Tim Kirkjian have an update.
All right, Dan, and quite an opening day at the stadium. Yankees and Devil Rays, 5-3 Rays, bottom 6. Derek Jeter right back up the box. And that ties the ball game at 5. Rays out of the inning, so we move to the 7th inning in a tie game. We'll keep you posted, guys. This over on ESPN.
All right, Scott, thank you. Here, runner at first, 1 out for the Reds in the bottom of the 4th. A 3-0 lead for the Reds. Aaron Harang, the batter, not a good hitting pitcher. Shows bunt, pulls the bat back, shows bunt again, and he bunts right through it.
Harang had 5 sacrifice bunts executed last year. Only a 108 hitter. He's not much of a threat with the bat. He had 1 walk and 35 strikeouts last year. So, I mean, there's no reason to get cute with him. Go at him. Get him out.
Gets the bunt down. Zambrano thought about throwing to second. Settles for the sure out. A sacrifice for Harang. Moves Gonzalez to second with 2 down. Well, let's take a look now at some of the players to watch this season, presented by Right Guard Sports.
Well, you take a look, and there are some players coming back in trying to reclamate their career and turn things around. Sammy Sosa back with the Texas Rangers, trying to get to 600 home runs. Rich Harden could be the difference maker in the American League West. If he's healthy in the ace, he could lead the A's to the postseason. Carl Pavano, we saw he's already removed from that game at Yankee Stadium. Kip Wells, Bartolo Colon.
Ground ball out to second, flip to first. Freel gone and the inning over. As the Reds leave a man on, we're through 4 at the Great American Ballpark. 3-0 Reds. Welcome back to opening day baseball, built by the Home Depot. Dan Schulman and Steve Phillips with you here in Cincinnati. Glad you're along with us. We'll be joined by Oral Hershiser on Wednesday night. We'll be in St. Louis for the Mets and the Cardinals. It'll be John Maine against Braden Looper, a career reliever who has moved into the Cardinal rotation. Carlos Zambrano at least wanting to give the impression that he might try to bunt his way aboard.
Because we've seen he can really run.
Yeah. Big guy, 6'5", about 250, 260. We showed his triple from spring training. He's serious about it.
Well, he squared around the first time, and Edwin Encarnacion didn't really, give him any credit for it. He kind of smiled at him and backed up a step deeper. So Zambrano said, let me give it a shot here.
1-1 the count on Zambrano, who slugged 6 home runs a year ago. 1-2. He's got that uppercut going.
Definitely a low ball hitter.
He takes it as seriously as he takes his pitching. And he's gone. Harang strikes him out for the second time today. A busy Scott Reese has another update.
All right, Dan, we check in on the Dodgers and the Brewers opening day in Milwaukee. And Derek Lowe, a forgettable opening day. Gave up 6 runs, 2 of them courtesy of Jeff Jenkins. A little help in left field from Luis Gonzalez. And the Brewers continue to lead the Dodgers 6-1, now top of the 6th.
All right, Scott. Well, Milwaukee kind of a trendy pick. A lot of people are thinking this is the year they break through, and I know you've got them as your pick to win the National League Central.
Well, I just believe in pitching being the key over a long season. And when I look at the Milwaukee Brewers rotation with a healthy bench, Sheets back in, throwing well, he logs innings, strikeouts, low walks. Chris Capuano in that rotation.
Soriano rips the ball into left field, and it hooks right back toward Dunn for the second out.
You put Jeff Suppan from the Cardinals last year, World Series hero in that rotation. Dave Bush, who really was a quality pitcher, just didn't get the results, the wins last year. And they have 2 closers, Francisco Cordero, the closer, Derek Turnbow, the setup man. I think they have depth, some good, young, exciting position players. They have the deepest starting staff in the National League Central.
Matt Merton, the batter. How high is the ceiling for Fielder and Weeks and Hardy and those young guys you were talking about?
I mean, off the charts. I mean, Billy Hall, we saw last year, 30-plus homers. Prince Fielder's only going to get better. Ricky Weeks, I think, is the wild card. I mean, I think he has a chance to be a dynamic offensive second baseman. His defense struggled miserably early in the year last year, worked hard to improve. They've got a long way to climb, you see, but not that long. Is 83 wins, and I think 85 probably wins the Central this year. It's a young team, and they're going to have to overcome some of their youthful mistakes and inexperience. But I love the pitching staff there, and I think it is the best pitching in the Central Division.
2 outs, nobody on, and Harang out in front of 1-2 on Merton. Breaking ball chopped toward third, and nothing that Encarnacion can do with this one. After striking out a couple of times, Merton barely makes contact, but he comes up with a base hit.
Well, you know what, you want to get your first hit at some point when you get the season started, just so you don't have to keep putting it off, put pressure on yourself. So maybe not what you really wanted your first hit to look like, but you'll take it.
So here's Derek Lee, who has walked and have been thrown out trying to steal, and also hit a fly ball to center field. If Lee is healthy and Ramirez and Soriano, if they all have their typical seasons, you can kind of count on each of them for 35, 40 home runs. If Cliff Floyd can get healthy and be a factor, Michael Barrett's a good hitting catcher. The pieces are there. Jock Jones. There's a ball ripped into center field and in and out of the glove of Freel. Rounding second, heading for third, Merton. The throw off line skips into the camera bay. And Merton is being allowed to score, and Lee is going to be awarded third base.
Well, Ryan Freel is a high energy player, and a lot like Carlos Zambrano, sometimes that energy can get you into trouble. The toughest ball in the game is the one hit directly at you, and he had it in his glove, but when he hit the ground, it pops out. And then when he spins, he doesn't pick up his target at third base in Encarnacion. He just turns and throws it as hard as he can. Throws it erratically. No chances of diving. Encarnacion goes for it and costs him a run. Again, you're up 3 runs there. You don't make the play. Just get it back in the infield with 2 outs and try not to let a run score.
Freel moving into center field. You saw Griffey, now the right fielder for the Cincinnati Reds. So it's a base hit, no RBI, error on Freel, allowing Merton to score and allowing Lee to come to third. The Cubs are on the board now, trailing 3-1.
Those are the things that drive managers crazy, because it's not really a physical error. It turned into that. That's a mental error. 3-run lead. You've got to just turn, get it back in the infield, and let the runners be on base.
Just outside at the knees, a ball and a strike on Aramis Ramirez. But when Ryan Freel makes errors, they're always errors of commission rather than omission. He's going to try to make the spectacular play.
He's a trier.
Yeah. Lunging for it. It's 1-2 now on Ramirez.
When you look at Ryan Freel and you break down his game, he doesn't have great. I mean, he runs pretty well. I mean, 37 stolen bases is nothing to sneeze at, but he doesn't have great power. He doesn't have great strength. He's here because he's a gamer. He's a dirt player. He's a hard-nosed guy. He's a trier. And the tendency is at times, particularly on opening day, big crowds, is to over-try, and that can get you in trouble.
2-2.
Now, David Ross right there better be careful, because he backhanded another slider in the dirt with a man on third base. You don't want that to happen. Keep it in front and knock it down.
Say what you will about Pete Rose in the ballpark here today and how he conducted himself after his playing days ended, but boy, was he a trier as a ball player as well. There may not be a player in the history of the game who got more out of his God-given ability than Pete Rose.
And the most amazing thing is, in a 162-game season, to put out that much effort every day, it can wear you down. I mean, to run out when you walk, to run to first base, it can wear you down over the course of a season, physically and mentally. And boy, nobody did it that well for that long.
Ground ball to third, charged by Encarnacion. High throw brought down by Hatteberg to end the inning. A run for the Cubs to make it 3-1, but Adam Dunn has already homered twice, is due up. Adam Dunn, first first inning, a 2-run line shot into the seats and right. Then he hit one even harder and further. His second time up, a deep drive to right center. 2 at-bats, 2 home runs today for Adam Dunn. A 3-1 lead for the Reds in the bottom of the 5th.
We talked about Brooke Jacoby, the new hitting coach. He had been Dunn's hitting coach at AAA when at about 250 at-bats. He hit 320, hit 20 home runs, drove in close to 80 runs, and put up big numbers. So they're comfortable working together. What they've been working on is trying to get Adam Dunn's hands moving back as he strides forward. Get some separation, they call it, where the hands move back to get to a launching position as the stride goes so that he can deliver the backside through the zone. In the past, he's had really dead hands that just sat very still, and you tend to get a significant uppercut and swing over the top of the ball. That adjustment seems to be working so far.
Only 3 times in the history of the game has somebody hit 3 home runs on opening day, all of them coming in the last 20 years or so. Steve's been updating you on Adam Dunn's home run projections for the season after each at bat here today. Well, he'll draw walks. Still got the perfect on base percentage as he heads down to first. Let's have Steve break down these swings for you.
When we talk about power comes from the hips. You watch his hands move back and the stride go forward. That's the separation they're looking for. That's the first home run he hit. And now you see the second. Hands going back, getting to a launching position. You think about it, if you're going to punch somebody, you're not going to start with your hands still. You're going to bring it back and launch into it. That's what you want to do as a hitter to get some momentum started for the bat to come through the zone to follow your hips.
Now Brandon Phillips, the batter. There aren't many home runs, I would imagine, that Dunn hits where he says to himself as he leaves the batter's box, do you think I got it? Did I get enough?
He's such a physical specimen. He's going to go to college, be a quarterback, and he's gotten so big and strong now. I mean, you really look at it. This ball hit Phillips on the inside pitch, but with Adam Dunn and that size and strength, you just want him to make contact because he is so strong that he can do things that you wouldn't think anybody else can do.
Interesting choices for Jerry Narron. He's got the 3 left-handed hitters, Dunn, Griffey, and Hatterberg, and he wants to separate them. So he wants one of them hitting second, one of them hitting fourth, one of them hitting sixth. He doesn't want Griffey hitting second, and he doesn't want Hatterberg hitting fourth. So he's got some options. But not only does Dunn find himself hitting second, which is kind of unusual for a guy like him, but also now you're looking at Brandon Phillips, and he's been entrusted as the best right-handed bat they have with the number 3 spot in the order. And maybe it's a work in progress. Maybe it'll work beautifully. But some interesting decisions made in the spring by Jerry Narron.
Well, he has some real options, I think.
Griffey, the batter.
They just need to keep Ken Griffey Jr. on the field. I mean, you look at those numbers from last year, but I think only 109 games played. You factor that out a little bit to a full season of 140, and those are big numbers.
Zambrano missing the outside corner on back-to-back pitches. He's already walked 4 today. You talked about the 115 batters he walked last year. And now Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, is heading back out to the mound.
Well, walks are always an issue for a pitcher. It's extra man on base, but it also puts your infielders asleep. They get back on their heels a little bit. You want to give them a chance to make plays for you. I mean, not his best day for sure for Zambrano, but he'll get it on track.
Major League Baseball on ESPN continues with Wednesday Night Baseball as the New York Mets continue their series, or wrap up their series, against Albert Pujols and the defending World Series champion St. Louis Cardinals. Wednesday Night Baseball on ESPN2 at 8 Eastern, also available at high definition on ESPN2 HD. The weather that was in St. Louis last night is here in Cincinnati today. They raised the banner at a Busch Stadium. They're giving out the rings tomorrow night. 2-0 pitch, line just beyond the reach of his Torres into left field. A base hit for Griffey, and the Reds have them loaded with nobody out.
Well, this is why Ken Griffey Jr. is such a special hitter. We know about the home run sweet swing that he has, but twice today he's gone the other way. He continues to get off-speed pitches and ball in the outer half of the plate. And he says, I'm not going to try to do too much. Let me just put it in play. Good piece of hitting. Asturis just couldn't quite get there. A little longer glove, and I think he might have had a shot at that one.
So a chance for the Reds to blow it open here in the bottom of the 5th inning. The Cubs got a run in the top half of the 5th to make it 3-1, but the Reds have the bases loaded, nobody out here in the bottom half. And here's Edwin Encarnacion, who hit over 300 last year with the runners in scoring position. He's 0 for 2 today. Aramis Ramirez looking into the dugout, trying to find out where he's supposed to be playing. They've got him even with the bag right now at third. Dunn at third, Phillips at second, Griffey at first. Chopper toward third, Ramirez coming home, and they'll get the force at the plate.
Well, Lou Piniella opting to play the infield back up the middle and in on the corners for the slow roller to try to get the out at the plate, and it paid off in this situation. Ball hit too slowly to get to. Double play still in order.
Fielder's choice for Encarnacion, and here's Hatteberg, who's 0 for 2, a couple of ground balls to second. The command just has not been there for Zambrano today from the moment this game began.
It'll get there, though. Yep. He's one of the best.
At the knees for a strike, 1-1. Brandon Phillips, the runner at third for the Reds. Ken Griffey Jr. is at second, and Edwin Encarnacion is the runner at first. Bases loaded, 1 out. 3-1 Cincinnati, bottom of the 5th here on opening day. In the dirt, 2 balls and a strike. Barrett just saved a potential run.
He sure did. Ball in the dirt there. That's a tough slider because it came up very short from home plate. And he slid across on the ground. You see him slide across to get himself and his body in front of it. Catcher's idea is I've got to get my chest in front of the ball to be able to knock it down so it doesn't ricochet off my thigh and go to the wall.
3-1.
Now, if he doesn't get him, this is clearly going to be his last hitter. He's laboring right now out there and struggling to find the strike zone. Hatteberg's one of those guys that can work the count and look for a certain pitch.
And there is activity in the Cub bullpen. Lou Piniella. Little frustration here on opening day. Ooh, Hatteberg did not like it, did not agree with it.
Well, how about that? Bases loaded, 3-1 count. Throws a hard 2-seam fastball on the outside corner at 92 miles per hour.
Full count pitch. Inside, ball 4. That forces in a run. 5th walk given up by Zambrano. 4-1 Cincinnati.
Well, he said it earlier, the walks last year 115, and he has too good a stuff to try to miss bats as much as he is. Now today I think he's just laboring. Now he's not even close to where he wants to throw that as he's overthrowing and obviously disappointed in himself and frustrated where he is. I'm surprised they're leaving him in here. I mean, I know it's early in the game still, but you have a fresh bullpen, and I know he's your ace. You want to give him a chance to work through the 5th, but you can't let it get too far away either.
Alex Gonzalez, the hitter, first pitch swinging, lines a ball to left field. Right at Merton, who makes the catch. Tagging at third, Griffey. He'll come in to score easily. Sac fly Gonzalez, 5-1 Reds.
Well, situational hitting is very important. You get runners in scoring position. Do what you have to do to get the run in. Gonzalez went up there looking for a pitch that he could get up in the air to get to the outfield, keep it off the ground, and avoid a double play. Got the pitch he was looking for and got the sac fly.
2 walks, a hit batter, a sac fly in this inning as the Reds score a couple of runs. They've scored in 3 of their 5 times at a bat against Zambrano, who's had a frustrating afternoon. Off day for these 2 teams tomorrow. They'll play again Wednesday and Thursday. Here's David Ross, who's grounded out and flied out. First and second, 2 down. After Zambrano in that Cub rotation, a couple of newcomers, Ted Lilly and Jason Marquis. Lilly signed to a 4-year, $40 million deal. Marquis 3 years, $21 million. Lilly had a pretty good season last year in Toronto. A consistent 13 to 15 game winner. Keeps you in games. Marquis kind of a wild card. His ERA was over 6 last year, but just a couple of years ago he was a very good starting pitcher.
One of the things that baseball people do and scouts, they believe that if you've seen a guy do it once successfully, that it's in there, and then it's up to the development or the coaching or the instruction to pull it out on a more consistent basis.
And we talked about how demonstrative and emotional Zambrano can be. He's given himself a lecture here after a pitch earlier in this sequence. You gotta love the enthusiasm, though. He's into it 100%. He just sometimes has trouble controlling his emotions. Wanted that one. 2-2.
Threw that one at 96 as well. The hardest fastball we've seen from him today. So he's digging down now, trying to make the pitches to get out of this jam to get a chance to win. Possibly a little bit low. Randy Marsh call behind the plate.
Nice slider there as he gets Ross, and the inning is over. But 2 more runs across for the Reds, and their lead is up to 4.
ESPN Opening Day, built by the Home Depot. Brought to you by Infinity, makers of the all-new 306 horsepower G, designed beyond machine. Genworth Financial, insurance for living, solutions for life. And Olivia, redefining high def.
The Reds Hall of Fame right next door to the ballpark here in Cincinnati, and so much great tradition for baseball here in Cincinnati. Obviously, if you go back to the Big Red Machine and consecutive World Series championships in '75 and '76. But there's as much history, and I mean way back, here in Cincinnati as there is in any baseball city, going all the way back to 1869. Jock Jones grounds one out to second, and he's retired for the out. A note in the Reds media notes today: 1869, the Red Stockings, who later became the Reds, beat the Cincinnati Great Westerns 45-9 in the first ever professional baseball game. The Red Stockings, Steve, would go on to win their first 130 games in that season.
I think my former partner Steve Stone pitched in that game, and I think he gave up 40 of the 45 runs.
But he said, you know what, if his defense had made a couple of plays behind him, yes, it could have been a whole different situation. There's Michael Barrett sending one into deep right center field, and there is Ryan Freel, and what he can do to electrify the fans here in Cincinnati.
The Reds moved Ryan Freel into center field because they thought he could cover more ground than Ken Griffey Jr. He gets a great jump off the bat, great angle to the ball, finds his spot, and adds a flair of the dramatic.
And trying to make up for the throwing error he committed a little bit earlier. 2 down quickly in the inning, and the batter is Mark DeRosa. You know, when thinking about the switch of Griffey to right, trying to think of another situation, I guess maybe Cal Ripken moving from short to third. There are some similarities. It's a little bit, it can be a delicate situation depending on how the superstar handles it and how management handles it. There's a fly ball to right field. Griffey tracking it back. Has room, and very quickly, and Aaron Harang needed a quickie. He gets out of the inning. 3 up, 3 down. Back here in Cincinnati, a 5-1 lead for the Reds over the Cubs. Bottom of the 6th inning, opening day, built by the Home Depot. Well, history was forever changed when Jackie Robinson became the first African American in the modern era to play Major League Baseball.
In 1957, 10 years after breaking baseball's color barrier, Jackie Robinson retired, having helped the Dodgers win 6 pennants and 1 World Series. But the former Rookie of the Year wasn't out of work for long, accepting an executive position with chock full of nuts.
I am not going to come back to baseball as much as I love the game and as much as I appreciate what it has done for me, but I think my future now is in another field.
Well, on the 60th anniversary of Jackie Robinson's first Major League Baseball game, we will honor a man whose impact will never be forgotten, celebrate this historic occasion at ballparks nationwide on April 15th, and watch the national ceremony live from Dodger Stadium. It's a Sunday night game, the Dodgers and the Padres, 8 Eastern, ESPN, April the 15th. 5-1 Cincinnati, bottom of the 6th, and a couple of changes for the Cubs. A double switch is Ryan Terrio, a good utility man for the Cubs, young player with a lot of ability who's really grown on Lou Piniella over the spring. He comes in at second base, and Neil Kotz, formerly of the White Sox, is now on the mound.
Acquired a deal from the Chicago White Sox. You see, he can take the ball. 70 appearances last year. A tough year a couple years ago. This guy was one of the best lefties in the game in a 7th, 8th inning situation. Has struggled a little. Now going to get some innings in work here and see if he can't get back on track.
Aaron Harang leading off the inning, strikes out.
You know, Aaron Harang going into the top of the 6th inning had thrown 97 pitches through 5 innings. You've got a chance to get into the Cincinnati Reds bullpen if you work them a little bit, get them out of the game. The Reds bullpen has struggled in the past. I'm going to test it a little bit now. 6-pitch inning for the Chicago Cubs in the top of the 6th. They didn't work it at all. Harang retired him quickly. Now he's going to be able to take the ball into the 7th inning.
Here's Freel, who's walked, singled, grounded out, been thrown out at second, committed a throwing error, and made a diving catch in right center. A little bit of everything for Ryan Freel today. Now, what you were talking about, the Cubs not taking pitches, is that players just not having the understanding of the situation of the game and what it demands of them?
I think that's it. I mean, I think you've got him on the ropes right now, and you know when you play the Cincinnati Reds, you want to get into that bullpen, especially when it's Harang and Arroyo. Not very efficient today. Harang 97 pitches through 5 innings. You know that this first opening day, he's got maybe one more inning in him if you work him and push him a little bit. Now they've gotten him into the 7th inning. You've got to work the count and take pitches.
On the appeal, he didn't go, and the count is now full on Freel. Well, in recent years, and granted there's been a lot of turnover on this Cub team, they've been a team that has frustrated a lot of people, their managers, their fans. They've had some great starting pitching at times and a lot of power at times. As Freel hits the ball to left field and deep, Merton back, and it's over his head. Freel digging for second. Merton struggling a little bit to pick it up. Big turn, and Freel heads back to the safety of second base. The relay was dropped, so he might have had a chance, but Freel deciding not to go, and he'll settle for a double and get another ovation.
Well, speed is a tool that helps you 2 ways. It helps you on defense, and we've seen that with Ryan Freel. Now it also helps you on offense with stealing bases and also putting pressure on the defense. You see Merton move as the ball didn't kick as far from the wall as he had hoped, and the relay throw comes in, and they try to rush it because they hear the crowd roaring that Freel may go for 3. Big hard turn. Good idea stopping at second base, though.
No guarantee to be sticking around, although with Adam Dunn at the plate right now, what he's done today. Dunn slams his bat down after that swing, feeling he missed an opportunity for another home run as Soriano has his first play of the afternoon, a routine fly ball to left center.
Well, I'm going to have to recalculate the home run totals for the year now. It's just 2 out of 3.
He's trending down, isn't he?
He is. Rapidly. Ball up in the zone there, and again couldn't quite get caught up to it on that high pitch. That's a pitch he has to take. You know, for a guy, now listen, I like that he's being aggressive and you hit a couple home runs, but that's the kind of pitch up in the zone. Let him bring it down a little bit because he is a low ball hitter.
Here's Brandon Phillips. He struck out, walked, and been hit by a pitch. Interesting with a runner at second and 2 down to be thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. You're the number 3 hitter, and listen, I like Ken Griffey Jr. batting 4th as well, but you're batting 3rd right now in a position to drive in runs. A bunt doesn't do you any good right here. You got to try to drive him in.
Pitch in on his hands, and he pops it up for Derek Lee to end the inning. So a double by Freel, but nothing more. 5-1 Reds. Back here in Cincinnati, George Foster, MVP 1977, part of the parade pregame as everybody made the procession down to the ballpark. But Adam Dunn has been the big story here during the game. 2 home runs. Came in his first 2 at bats. Aaron Harang had a very nice afternoon. You saw Josh Hamilton briefly. He has yet to appear in the game, but a chance he could come in as a pinch hitter, maybe a defensive replacement for Adam Dunn. And again, Hamilton, that compelling story from the spring, overcoming his demons, and had a great spring, made the team as a Rule 5 pick, and he's expected to get a lot of time this year. The Reds think that he has a chance to be a great major league player, and you figure they'll rest Freel every now and again, and you figure they'll rest Griffey every now and again, and they're going to find some opportunities for Josh Hamilton.
I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity to be a defensive replacement for Adam Dunn in left field and get himself some at-bats. You know, managers early in the season want to try to get everybody in, to get there first, to get some at-bats, to start to get comfortable back in the big leagues.
His Torres lifts a lazy fly ball to left center. Freel there for out number 1. Aaron Harang had to work awfully hard in the 4th and 5th innings. Gave up a run on 4 hits in those 2 innings. Threw about 50 pitches between those 2 innings, but then had the 6-pitch 6th. And now gets a quick out here to open the 7th.
Well, this is why you throw 234 innings. You find a way to battle through some tough innings and get a couple of quick ones. And quality start for him today.
Now Ryan Theriot, utility guy for the Cubs, who carries 5 gloves with him at all times. A natural shortstop, as so many infielders and utility guys are when they were younger. Probably, as you said earlier, probably figures to play more second base than anything, but he can play some outfield too as well for the Cubs.
Well, Lou Piniella has some options and some versatility. I mean, Mark DeRosa is a guy who's long been a jack of all trades and can play multiple positions. Had a big year in Texas at second, but could play some outfield.
A ball and 2 strikes on Theriot, who Lou Piniella said really grew on him during the spring. The more he saw him play, the more he liked him. Maybe a poor man's Ryan Freel, for lack of a better way to describe him. Harang gets him. 2 down, 6 in a row now set down by the big right-hander. Watch your team's out-of-market games live from anywhere. Live Major League Baseball right to your desktop. Go to ESPN.com and search MLB.tv. Sign up today. 5th strikeout of the afternoon for Aaron Harang, who led the National League with 216 a year ago. Here's Soriano, 1 for 3.
The reason Harang gets so many strikeouts is his slider. It's an out pitch. He'll throw the fastball in a spot in a certain location, and he'll come back with the slider, starting at exactly the same spot and breaking it out of the zone.
A high fly ball to right field. Griffey another play, and Harang has another 3-up, 3-down inning. Well, a fine afternoon for Aaron Harang. 7 innings, 1 run allowed, an unearned run, and high fives all the way around in that Cincinnati dugout. An impressive performance. Stumbled a little bit in the middle innings, but got back on track and finishes strong. As we take a look at our pitching summary presented by Bank of America, the same cannot be said for Carlos Zambrano, who battled command issues most of the afternoon.
Well, Zambrano battled command issues and didn't make the pitches when he needed to. Aaron Harang had to battle through some difficult innings, but when he needed to, he came up with the big pitch, and obviously the results are there.
Well, one of the issues that we haven't touched a lot on today, but it certainly is a big issue for Cub fans, maybe the team has moved past it a little bit, but is what are they going to get out of Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood? We asked Lou Piniella about Pryor and Wood yesterday.
The worst thing I think you can do with pitchers, especially when they've had some physical ailments, is to put a timetable on them. And we didn't want to do that with either of them. We basically put them through a routine, but we didn't overload the circuit for him. Everything was going just about on time, except that Wood had a little bit of a setback, and the other kid just needed a little more time to build up a little more strength.
Mark Pryor's velocity has not come all the way back, and neither one of these pitchers has come anywhere near all the way back from what they did back in 2003 when they looked like the best 1-2 in a baseball, or among them. And Pryor's now in AAA. Kerry Wood is on the DL right now, and the Cubs do have Lilly and Marquis and other options right now. But do you think they can ever rely on these guys?
I think they're handling it exactly the way they should right now. Anything they get from Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor is gravy. It's extra. They couldn't plan for it. That unpredictability has taken such a toll on this organization over time, where you come in relying upon Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor, and if they're not ready to go at the beginning of the season, you felt like, well, here we go again. Well, we'll get them next year. Maybe they'll be healthy then. They just have to hope they can get healthy and get back out on the mound.
Ken Griffey looks at a strike from Neil Kotz. If you had taken a survey of general managers after the 2003 season, you can have one pitcher in baseball, who would it be? I got to believe 25 out of the 30 guys would have taken Mark Pryor.
You saw his delivery, you saw his strength, you saw his poise, you saw his charisma. He had the entire package of what you'd want from an ace starting pitcher. But right now, they have to set these guys up to succeed. Rushing back to get ready isn't the right thing to do for the team, for the organization, or for the individual pitchers. You want them to come back and be here for the long term and be healthy. They need to prove they're healthy down below.
A ball and 2 strikes on to Griffey, who's 2 for 2 with a walk today and has played his position flawlessly out in right field. Let's take a look. Nothing out of the ordinary, but he looks pretty comfortable.
He does look comfortable. He says, look, I'm a baseball player. Now, he had to run some balls down, but, he has such good instincts in the outfield. He gets a good jump and takes direct routes to the ball. Makes it look easy.
Do you think one of the challenges will be that Freel out in center is supposed to be the take charge guy, and Griffey knows Freel's running 100 miles an hour for every ball, that Griffey may have to back off a little bit on some balls in the alley? Got a hanging breaking ball and skies one into right center. It'll be Soriano to make the catch, and I guess the same applies for Soriano out in center. How important is the communication between the outfielders?
See, I think that's a very important point, because when a center fielder moves to the corner, he's used to being the guy in charge. When you have a new player moving to center field, it's time for them to take charge. And whether you have Ken Griffey Jr., a 10-time Gold Glover, a 12-time All-Star in right field, you've got to call him off. You have to be the boss. I think Ryan Freel has that energy. I think it's a little easier for him. For Alfonso Soriano, that's going to be one of the challenges. You have to make decisions, and you have to make quick decisions and communicate with the guys and take charge doing it. That's going to be the difficulty, I think, for Soriano in center field, more so than Freel, who played 44 games out there in center last year.
You've really got a couple of infielders, guys who came up as infielders, who are now playing center field at the major league level on an everyday basis.
For Soriano, I think one of the difficulties, Arizona's tough. Tough sky, fly balls, tough to read. The other thing with players just playing the outfield for the first time is the third level of the stadium. When minor league players come to the major leagues, they usually play in either one level or 2 level stadiums. When you get to the major leagues, you have a third level. It's more difficult to pick up the ball off the bat because of that. And I think the conditions at Wrigley are going to be even more challenging for Soriano.
Everybody says that playing the outfield at Wrigley may be tougher than any other ballpark because of the winds, and the sky can be tough there, and the ivy. There are just some out of the ordinary things about playing there. Low and a full count on Encarnacion.
The one other issue is this: when you have an outfielder who's not sure of himself and may be prone to mistakes, I think left field's the best position, because if he misjudges a ball, it turns into a double. In center field or right field, those mistakes are triples. That one extra base can make an awfully big difference during the course of a season.
Well, the issue for them is Merton's a left fielder, Floyd's a left fielder, Jones is a right fielder who might be able to cover the ground in center but throws like a left fielder. I mean, there's no really perfect way for them to align their outfield. No matter how they do it, they're going to have some adventures out there, you figure. Into left field, a base hit for Encarnacion. He's 1 for 4. Running aggressively down the line, putting the pressure on Merton to make a good throw back into the infield.
Encarnacion's another guy that I think is going to blossom into a quality player. He's going to be around for a long time here. In his rookie season last year, he broke out 15 home runs, 72 RBIs, solid defensively. He's going to improve a little bit. He made some throwing errors at times by rushing his throws, but a good young player and a position player the Reds are developing to build around for the future.
There's Scott Hatteberg. 0 for 2, and he walked with the bases loaded back in the 5th inning. The Reds lead 5-1. We're in the bottom of the 7th. As Encarnacion draws a throw, the shadows are beginning to come into play from some of the light standards that are towering above the ballpark as we move later into the afternoon here in Cincinnati.
We'll go back to that 6th inning where I think the Cubs let Aaron Harang off the hook. He had thrown 97 pitches through 5 innings, and he got through the 6th inning with only 6 pitches. The bullpen's a major issue for the Cincinnati Reds. There's some question marks there. Guys who haven't performed that well in the past are just learning how to pitch here at the major league level. Plus, remember, it's opening day. That first outing, guys come in with jitters. They're a little nervous. You want to get a reliever in there. Aaron Harang was comfortable. You let him settle in a little bit. That 1 inning extra work, I think, is a big difference in this game for the Reds. Harang pitching instead of the bullpen.
Hatteberg takes high, and the count is now 2-0. Well, for Cincinnati to have a chance at contending, you've got to figure that Harang and Arroyo probably have to duplicate what they did last year, because the rest of their rotation brings with it a lot of uncertainty. Popped up down the 3rd baseline, draws a trio of Cubs, and it's Merton making the catch as Ramirez and Merton nearly collided. Let's get an update from Scott Reese.
All right, Dan, we had some late game drama in Philly. 3-3 Braves and Phils, 10th inning, and Edgar Renteria off of Ryan Madsen. 2nd home run of the day for the Braves shortstop. Proves to be the game winner. 5-3. Braves are victorious on opening day. Dan?
Well, Scott, you sure get the feeling there are going to be games between the Braves, Phillies, and the Mets all season long with all kinds of dramatic endings. As Atlanta wins there, Lou Piniella takes the ball from Neil Kotz. And we'll go to his bullpen for Michael Wirtz. We'll tell you all about it after this. Back here in Cincinnati, for those of you watching on ESPN2, for those of you over on ESPN, getting Boston and Kansas City. We've had a good pitching performance from Aaron Harang here today at the Great American Ballpark, and a couple of home runs from Adam Dunn. And the Reds have looked pretty good here today, leading 5-1. We've seen Ken Griffey in right. We've seen Alfonso Soriano in center. We've had all kinds of things to talk about, and just a beautiful day for baseball opening day here at the Great American Ballpark. New pitcher for the Cubs, right-hander Michael Wirtz comes on with a runner at first, 2 down, 5-1. The Reds lead in the bottom of the 7th.
Wirtz came up last year, had a lot of success for the Chicago Cubs, struggled miserably this spring. Was the last pitcher added to the roster with the thought that, you know what, it was just a bad spring. He had success last year. We think he can do it again.
Alex Gonzalez today is flied out, had an infield hit, and had a sacrifice fly. Reds got 2 in the 1st on the home run by Dunn. A solo shot from Dunn in the 3rd. And then Hatteberg and Gonzalez picking up the RBIs in the 5th. Neil Kotz goes an inning and 2/3 today for the Cubs, gives up a couple of hits, strikes out a batter, and he's responsible for Encarnacion over at first base. Carlos Zambrano, 5 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, all earned. He walked 5 today as well. It was a struggle for Zambrano.
Well, it was a major struggle for Zambrano as he couldn't command his pitches. Looked like he was kind of cutting across his body with a lot of his delivery and overthrowing a little bit, the emotions of the day.
And there's a walk issued to Gonzalez, pushing Encarnacion up to second base. Let's take a look at Zambrano's afternoon and some of his reactions to the problems that he went through. Very emotional guy. As you said, opening day, probably a new contract on the horizon. He was really amped up today, and maybe a little bit too amped up.
But one of the rules is when the pitcher's like that, don't talk to him. Just let him settle down a little bit before you go up to him, pat him on the back.
Especially when he's 6'5", 260.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see as we watch Lou Piniella. I mean, the years in Tampa Bay, you knew they weren't going to win. He just really didn't have a chance to compete with the kind of talent that he had. But whether he's the old Lou Piniella or just an older, mellower Lou Piniella, and how much the players take on his personality.
I'm not sure mellow is. I mean, I know he's describing himself as having mellowed a little bit, but I just don't see it. He's still very competitive. A lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. And we talked about that he's a fixer as a manager. He's the guy you bring in when things haven't gone right. This is the third time he's taken over a team that the preceding season had the worst record in their league. He's a guy you bring in to turn things around, to bring in new energy.
Had success with the Yankees, won a world championship, of course, right here in this town. 1990 with the Reds, had a great run with Seattle. They never got to a World Series, but just a great run, including a team that won 116 games, and then, of course, struggled with Tampa Bay. Oh, yeah, a pretty good player as well. A very good hitter, Rookie of the Year back in 1969 with Kansas City. Just, he's baseball through and through.
He's been in the playoff 10 times, 5 as a player and 5 as a manager. So he knows what it takes to get there. He's been in the large markets. He's dealt with stars and kids throughout his career.
And I think, too, he's universally respected. Like a Jim Leland, he's going to come in and he's going to get your attention. Nobody's going to manhandle Lou Piniella.
You know, and Lou's known for the tirades on umpires and throwing bags and everything else, but what he's doing is he's sending a message that innocuous game on July 8th is the most important game of the season because it's the one that's being played today.
Wirtz strikes out Ross, and the inning is over as the Reds leave a couple of men on. It remains 5-1 Cincinnati now through 7.
ESPN Opening Day is built by the Home Depot. You can do it, we can help. And in part by Dick's Sporting Goods. Every season starts at Dick's. And Budweiser, the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Open up a world of taste.
Our own Joe Morgan, a prominent member of the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, not to mention the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Reds Hall of Fame adjacent to the stadium here in Cincinnati. We have had a beautiful afternoon here. Feels like an early summer day, not an early spring day, as Kirk Saarloos comes into the game for the Reds. Lost out in his bid to be the 5th starter, so right now settling into the bullpen. His numbers with Oakland a year ago, acquired in an off-season deal, and he's been a versatile guy over the course of his career with the A's and with Houston before that. Basically taking the ball whenever he's asked to take the ball and working in a variety of different roles.
His value is versatility, the ability to start a game if you need it or give you 3 or 4 innings in the middle of a game, and it looks like today to get the 8th inning as well.
Matt Merton, the batter, and Merton strikes out for the 3rd time today. Aaron Harang, the starter today for the Reds. 7 innings, 1 run allowed. It was unearned. Walked 2, struck out 5 through 113 pitches. Now Derek Lee. He has walked, flied out, and had a base hit to center. Just 50 games played last year for Lee because of the wrist injury. Off the outside corner, 2 balls, no strikes on Derek Lee.
He talked earlier what a tough season it was physically for him, and his daughter obviously diagnosed with a rare disease.
Congenital eye disease, and something only affects about 3,000 Americans. So Derek Lee has started a foundation called Project 3000 to try to raise awareness and funding to try to find a cure or help with treatment. And a couple of his teammates, Michael Barrett, Ryan Dempster, made sizable donations to the cause. And you can only imagine, I mean, we're both parents, you can only imagine a phone call changes your life just like that. When your daughter says, hey, Daddy, there's something wrong with my eye. You go to the doctor and it's, you know, anything but what you expect. Right field, and it's going to be over the head of Griffey and off the wall on the fly. It'll be a very long single for Derek Lee. Let's get another update. Back in the studio, here's Scott Reese again.
All right, Dan, the Dodgers and the Brewers and the home team from start to finish in control. Ben Sheets gets Russell Martin to end it. How about a two-hitter on opening day? Sheets goes the distance. Brewers win 7-1, guys.
Now you talk about a guy who can be a difference maker if he's on, if he's healthy. 3 years ago, I guess it was, he had some extraordinary numbers. I think he was 12 and 14. That wasn't the extraordinary part, but the innings, the hits, the walks, the strikeouts. If he's healthy, he's a true number one.
I mean, he's like 235 innings, 235 strikeouts, and 11 walks. I mean, he has that much command and control.
Ramirez hits a bouncer down to third. Nicely played by Encarnacion to get the out. Lee into second, 2 down. There's been a lot of talk during the spring down in Sarasota, where the Reds train, that Encarnacion has worked very, very hard to improve his defense, and we've seen some good plays here today.
Well, a young man committed to his career, and Juan Castro, the utility infielder, has really kind of started to be his mentor a little bit as they work to try to improve defensively, and had throwing problems in the past. They've worked with his footwork, and they think he's going to be a solid defensive player.
2 outs, a runner at second, 5-1 Reds here in the 8th, and the batter is Jock Jones. Jones today 1 for 3. And a ground ball for Gonzalez. Just like that, the inning is over. We will go to the bottom of the 8th. Pre-game, Josh Hamilton got a huge ovation. Are we going to see him bat this half inning? Stay tuned.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
Well, we're going to see Josh Hamilton make his major league debut. The crowd now just getting aware of it, and they're now starting to stand and cheer. And what a moment this has to be for this young man. First overall pick back in 1999. Has barely played the last 4 years. Drug and alcohol addiction, multiple suspensions, injuries. And just to be standing on a major league field on the verge of making his major league debut, you can only imagine what he is feeling on the inside right now. Lou Piniella, meanwhile, when he saw Hamilton come out, he came out to make a pitching change. He has taken out Michael Wirtz and brought in a left-hander. Will Oman is going to pitch, so Hamilton will have to wait just a minute or two longer before he can make his major league debut. He was the natural, the All-American kid, both in terms of his personality and his ability, until it all went wrong. You talked about it after a car accident. He got hurt, he got bored, he didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, drinking and drugs and tattoos, and almost lost his life, almost lost his career, and here he is on a major league field in uniform for the first time.
I mean, it's an absolutely remarkable story. I mean, you know, he got married through this and separated, back with his wife, and the support from his father-in-law, dealing with a lot of the drug dealers that were out there. I mean, this story is something that movies are made of. Yep. It's absolutely special, but the perseverance of this kid is something that should be rewarded. Certainly the fans recognize it here. What an inspirational story, and everybody's rooting for him, not only to succeed on the field, but to succeed in life.
An outfielder with a cannon for an arm, can play all 3 spots. Hit over 400 in the spring with power. Anybody who was around the Reds down in Sarasota said he was the best player they had. There are the numbers from last year. 15 games in a low A league. That is the extent of his baseball over the last 4 years. And he hit 400 in the spring, and look at this ovation.
And oftentimes during pitching changes, we go to break. We stayed here, so the umpires are waiting for us to get back. And you know what? All the much better for the kid to get the crowd cheering for him.
Now 25 years old. A day that, quite frankly, he and many others thought would never come. Takes a breaking ball down and away for ball 1. Rips the ball into left center field, and a sliding catch denies Hamilton of what would have been his first hit. Matt Merton with a nice catch. The crowd, they don't care one bit. A big ovation for Josh Hamilton and a big smile for him, even though he made it out. And I think everybody's got to be rooting that that's the first of many, many major league at-bats for Josh Hamilton. If he can stay on the right path and not only fulfill his potential, but just get his life in order and keep his life in order. Now Freel.
You know, when you look at Josh Hamilton's story, I think one of the things to be learned is he had extraordinary physical talent, and he still does. But oftentimes with young players, the physical abilities are developed much further than the emotional and mental abilities to cope with the lifestyle and the life. And I think that he got caught in that. And fortunately for him, he's been able to fight his way back out of it. He should be rewarded for it. And I hope that this thing works out so well for him. I mean, you look, a young guy staying on the ball, getting a lefty on the mound your first time up, driving it in left field. And clearly Matt Merton's not one for the storyline here. Right. Come on, Matt. Get it on the short hop.
Freel chases a bad ball down in the dirt. Baird will complete the strikeout down to first, 2 down. Well, back to Hamilton. We sat down with him yesterday and asked what in his mind would constitute a successful season.
It already is successful. You know, if I stay clean, which I don't have any doubts that I'll do, that I, won't stay clean, is just have fun, soak it all in, enjoy every minute of being out there, being around other professionals who've been in the game a long time, and just trying to learn from them.
Was lined out to left field in his first major league at bat. Last year, for a while, he was raking fields. He was raking baseball diamonds. He was just trying to do anything he could to stay clean, to get his life back together. You talked about how he separated and got back together with his wife. They have 2 young children. One is hers from a previous relationship. The younger one is theirs together. And 25 is a lot different than 18. He looks into the eyes of his little girl, he says, and he realizes the responsibility he has, not just to himself. He's got to stay clean.
And it's an amazing story where he hit his lowest point. His grandmother took him in, got him through the tough times. When she got sick, he wouldn't leave the house until he knew she was better, taking care of her. I mean, it really is an unbelievable story. And to me, the baseball part of it is secondary, but even more remarkable how a player who has only played 15 games at the low levels of Class A has these skills and abilities to compete at the major league level.
Dunn is gone and the inning is over. We're through 8 in Cincinnati. Josh Hamilton has made his major league debut. He made it out, but he doesn't care. He's in the big leagues, and the smile reflects how happy he is. Welcome back to Cincinnati and our coverage of opening day baseball, built by the Home Depot. Great American Ballpark, crowd of 42,720, and they've enjoyed themselves. 5-1. The Reds lead the Cubs as we go to the top of the 9th. And the first pitch of the inning is popped back out of play off the bat of Michael Baird. A couple of changes for the Reds. Josh Hamilton remains in the game in left field, taking over for Adam Dunn. After lining out to left in his first major league at bat in the bottom half of the 8th, and a veteran, David Weathers, is on. Get a little work in here on opening day. He figures to be perhaps a co-closer, at least initially, for the Reds. They're in a state of flux right now in their pen. Fly ball to center field for out number 1 as we go to Scott Reese for an update.
All right, Dan, over on ESPN, the Red Sox and the Royals. Some trouble for Curt Schilling in the first. He's got a 1-0 lead. He strikes out rookie phenom Alex Gordon with the bases loaded, but then with 2 outs, ball 4 to Ryan Sheely, forces home a tying run. It's early, second inning of a 1-1 game. Highlights of all the day's action on Baseball Tonight after your game, guys.
And Scott, it looks like Curt Schilling will be on the mound for the Sunday night game this coming week from Arlington. Sunday night, 8 p.m. as the Red Sox take on the Rangers. Here's Cliff Floyd, the former Met, coming back from the Achilles surgery in the offseason. And they're easing him back into action, but he hit well in the spring. And a guy, when he's healthy, Steve, that's a potent bat. Not this time. Pop up on the right side of the infield. 2 down.
Cliff Floyd coming off the bench is not a bad guy to have. he's going to give some production to the Cubbies this year.
Numbers on David Weathers, a dozen saves a year ago. He and Mike Stanton, the righty-lefty tandem right now for the 9th inning. Eddie Guardado's on the DL, surgery last year. They're hoping to get him back midseason. Well, would you say the folks have had a good time here on opening day? 70-something degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Adam Dunn, a couple of homers. Aaron Harang, 7 strong. Josh Hamilton, a major league debut. Base hit into left field for Cesar Izturis. More action coming your way later tonight here on ESPN2 as opening day built by the Home Depot continues. Johan Santana and the Twins taking on the Orioles at 7. Then at 10 Eastern it'll be Texas against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Both games available on ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD. Ryan Theriot, the batter.
Throwing all the good things for Reds fans for the day. Throwing about 75 and sunny in early April.
We understand it's going to change in the next 48 hours or so, so enjoy it while you can. Grounded up the middle. Gonzalez the flip on to Phillips, and Cincinnati wins on opening day.
Well, exactly the type of day the Cincinnati Reds want, and the way they're going to win, with the pitching riding the shoulders of Aaron Harang and the big power of Adam Dunn. A lot of good things for the Reds today. The Cubbies looking to regroup for Wednesday's game.
The Reds beat the Cubs 5-1 here on opening day at the Great American Ballpark. We'll be back with more right after this.